Module 4. The Law and Criminal Evidence. The Law and Criminal Evidence. Foundations of Justice. The law is the backbone of any society, providing a structured framework to regulate behavior, protect rights, and deliver justice. Central to this system is criminal evidence, which plays a crucial role in determining the truth within legal proceedings. Criminal evidence is the cornerstone of the adversarial system, ensuring that decisions are based on facts rather than conjecture or bias. Criminal evidence encompasses all information presented in court to establish an accused individual's guilt or innocence. Its purpose is twofold: to support the prosecution in proving beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime occurred, and to enable the defense to challenge the prosecution's claims or present alternative narratives. Evidence can take many forms, including physical objects, witness testimony, digital records, and forensic findings. Each type of evidence is subjected to rigorous legal standards to ensure its admissibility and relevance. The law surrounding criminal evidence is rooted in principles designed to protect the rights of all parties involved. Rules of evidence are carefully crafted to prevent unreliable or prejudicial information from influencing outcomes. These rules address issues such as the chain of custody, hearsay, privilege, and expert testimony. Judges serve as gatekeepers, deciding what evidence can be admitted while balancing the need for fairness and justice. Understanding the difference between general intent and specific intent. Intent is a critical element in determining criminal liability. Within legal contexts, intent is classified into two categories: general and specific. These classifications differ in their nature and implications, shaping how the law interprets and prosecutes an individual's actions. General intent refers to the mindset in which a person engages in an act with awareness of their actions, but without any aim to bring about a specific outcome. In this context, the individual does not need to have a particular goal in mind. For example, in battery cases, the prosecution only needs to prove that the defendant acted voluntarily and knew their actions would likely lead to harmful or offensive contact. The law assumes that certain acts inherently involve some intent because of their natural and foreseeable consequences, even if the actor did not aim for a specific result. On the other hand, specific intent goes beyond the act itself and focuses on the defendant's purpose or desire to achieve a particular outcome. Crimes requiring specific intent involve a deliberate plan or objective. For instance, theft requires not only the act of taking another's property, but also the intention to deprive the owner of it permanently. The prosecution must establish that the defendant acted with a conscious objective, making the burden of proof for specific intent crimes more demanding. The role and qualifications of an expert witness. An expert witness plays a crucial role in legal proceedings by providing specialized knowledge and opinions to assist the court in understanding complex or technical issues. Unlike lay witnesses, who testify about facts within their knowledge, expert witnesses are called upon to interpret facts, provide analysis, and offer conclusions based on their expertise. Their testimony is often pivotal in influencing the outcome of a case, whether in criminal, civil, or administrative law contexts. To qualify as an expert witness, the individual must demonstrate knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education in a field that exceeds the average person's. This expertise must be relevant and aid the judge or jury in making an informed decision. Courts evaluate the qualifications of expert witnesses based on their professional background, practical experience, and any formal education or certifications they possess. However, it is only sometimes necessary for an expert to have formal academic training or degrees in their field. Practical experience, significant contributions to the field, or recognition as a leading authority can also establish expertise. For example, a forensic accountant with years of hands-on experience may qualify as an expert witness without an advanced degree. At the same time, a medical professional offering opinions on a surgical procedure would typically be required to possess formal education and licensing. Ultimately, the decision to accept an individual as an expert witness lies with the court, which assesses their qualifications about the specific case. This flexible standard ensures that expertise is defined broadly, allowing for various paths to qualification while maintaining the integrity and reliability of expert testimony in the judicial process. Understanding the authentication of evidence. The authentication of evidence is a fundamental process in legal, scientific, and investigative contexts that establishes the genuineness and reliability of an item presented as proof. To authenticate evidence means to confirm that the piece in question is what it purports to be, ensuring its relevance and credibility in its intended use. This process often involves demonstrating a transparent chain of custody, verifying the origin, and ensuring that the evidence has not been tampered with or altered. Authenticity lends weight to evidence, making it admissible in courtrooms, credible in research, and reliable in decision-making scenarios. Authentication involves corroborating evidence through witnesses, documentation, or expert testimony that links it to the events or individuals in question. For example, a signed contract must be verified as belonging to the alleged parties, with signatures authenticated compared to known samples or expert analysis. Similarly, digital evidence, such as emails or social media posts, requires metadata and technical verification to confirm its legitimacy. Authenticating real evidence. A delicate balance of verification. Authenticating objective evidence is critical in ensuring the integrity of legal proceedings and the pursuit of justice. This process involves establishing the evidence's authenticity and reliability and verifying that it is what it purports to be. The best way to authenticate objective proof hinges on meticulously examining its origin, chain of custody, and relevance to the matter. This multifaceted approach ensures that the evidence holds probative value without being tainted by doubts of tampering or fabrication. First, the origin of the evidence must be established with clarity. This typically involves identifying where, how, and by whom the evidence was discovered or obtained. Direct testimony from individuals finding or handling the evidence is crucial. Their accounts provide foundational support for linking the evidence to the disputed facts. Equally important is maintaining an unbroken chain of custody. From the moment evidence is collected to its presentation in court, every individual who handles it must document their interactions thoroughly. Proper labeling, secure storage, and precise documentation prevent allegations of contamination or tampering. This continuous documentation protects the integrity of the evidence and fortifies its admissibility by proving its authenticity through each stage of its journey. Finally, the relevance of the evidence must be established to demonstrate its connection to the case. This can involve expert analysis, scientific testing, or corroborative testimony linking the evidence directly to the parties or events. Forensic analysis, when applicable, further substantiates its authenticity by providing objective, measurable support. Authenticating a newspaper as evidence, establishing credibility and reliability. Authenticating a newspaper as evidence in legal proceedings is essential to ensure credibility and reliability. Authentication involves demonstrating that the newspaper is genuine, accurately reflects its stated publication date, and has not been altered or fabricated. Courts typically rely on testimony, documentation, and contextual analysis to verify authenticity. The first step in authenticating a newspaper is establishing its origin. This may involve presenting testimony from individuals with first-hand knowledge of the publication, such as an editor, publisher, or librarian who can confirm the source's legitimacy. The publication's established reputation and adherence to journalistic standards may also be considered. The newspaper's content must be carefully examined to confirm its consistency with its publication's historical and factual context. Details such as publication date, masthead information, and alignment with contemporaneous events are corroborative evidence. Chain of custody plays a critical role in ensuring the document has been preserved without tampering from when it was collected to its presentation in court. Authentication may also include expert testimony or forensic analysis, mainly when questions about the document's integrity arise. Ultimately, the goal is to establish the newspaper's trustworthiness, ensuring its proper use as credible evidence within the legal system. Reconstructing the original, proving contents without the original evidence. When original evidence is destroyed, establishing its contents relies on secondary evidence and corroborative accounts. The process hinges on the principle that the destruction of original evidence, whether accidental or intentional, does not nullify the truth of its contents if credible substitutes are available. Secondary evidence, such as copies, photographs, or digital records, often plays a pivotal role in reconstruction. These alternatives must demonstrate authenticity and accuracy, aligning closely with the original in content and detail. Eyewitness testimony or statements from individuals with direct knowledge of the original evidence further strengthen the case. These testimonies, however, must withstand scrutiny for credibility, consistency, and lack of bias. Additionally, circumstantial evidence, while indirect, can provide compelling context that helps piece together the narrative or content of the original. For instance, associated documentation, transactional records, or metadata are critical supporting evidence. The credibility of such evidence is evaluated by considering factors such as the chain of custody, the reliability of the source, and the absence of tampering. Courts and investigative bodies typically weigh the totality of the circumstances, ensuring that the reconstructed evidence meets the standards of proof necessary for its acceptance. This multifaceted approach ensures justice even in the absence of the original, understanding irrelevant evidence in argumentation. Irrelevant evidence refers to information or data introduced into an argument or discussion that fails to directly support, relate to, or substantiate the main claim or conclusion being presented. While such evidence may appear persuasive or engaging, it ultimately distracts from the logical flow and coherence of the argument. The presence of irrelevant evidence often stems from a misunderstanding of the topic or an intentional attempt to sway opinions through emotional appeal or extraneous details. In logical reasoning, the strength of an argument depends on the relevance of its supporting evidence. Irrelevant evidence can undermine the argument's credibility by introducing confusion, diluting the core message, and diverting the audience's focus from the main point. For example, when discussing climate change, mentioning an unrelated topic, such as the popularity of electric cars in a specific city, might seem tangentially connected, but fails to provide direct evidence about global climate trends. Effective argumentation requires discernment in selecting evidence that directly supports the claim, advances the discussion, and avoids unnecessary digressions. Speakers and writers can enhance their argument's clarity, precision, and persuasiveness by identifying and excluding irrelevant evidence, ensuring their audience remains engaged and focused on the key issues. Determining relevance. The court's role in evaluating evidence objections. When an objection to a piece of evidence is raised on the grounds of irrelevance, the court has the critical responsibility of assessing the validity of the objection before making a ruling. Evidence is considered relevant if it tends to make a fact of consequence more or less probable than it would be without the evidence. To determine relevance, the court must evaluate both the proffered evidence and the underlying issue in dispute. This requires the judge to carefully consider the context in which the evidence is presented and the arguments provided by the parties. The court should first identify the factual issues at the heart of the case. This involves reviewing the pleadings, claims, and defenses to understand the facts necessary to resolve the dispute. Once the material facts are identified, the court must analyze whether the evidence has a logical connection. If the evidence can assist in proving or disproving a material fact, it meets the threshold for relevance. However, relevance alone does not guarantee admissibility. The court must also weigh whether the risk of prejudice, confusion, or waste of time substantially outweighs the probative value of the evidence. While relevance is the primary standard, judges exercise discretion to ensure that admitted evidence contributes to a fair and efficient trial. Ultimately, this process underscores the court's role as a gatekeeper, ensuring that only appropriate and meaningful evidence is presented to the trier of fact. When is evidence prejudicial? In legal proceedings, the admission of evidence is critical for ensuring justice, yet it must adhere to the principle of fairness. Evidence is considered prejudicial when its potential to unfairly sway the jury's emotions, biases, or perceptions outweighs its probative value, which is its capacity to prove a fact in dispute. Courts aim to balance the need for relevant information against the risk of unfair influence that might compromise the objectivity of the decision-making process. Prejudicial evidence often evokes strong emotional responses, leading jurors to make decisions based on feelings rather than rational analysis of the facts. For instance, graphic images in a criminal trial might elicit sympathy or anger, clouding a juror's ability to evaluate evidence logically. Similarly, evidence highlighting a defendant's prior evil acts unrelated to the case may lead jurors to infer guilt based on character rather than the case's specific facts. Such evidence creates a risk of unfair prejudice, shifting the focus from the evidence relevant to the case to considerations that may not be legally permissible grounds for judgment. To prevent this, judges exercise discretion to exclude prejudicial evidence under the rules of evidence. This decision hinges on whether its inclusion might compromise the fairness of the trial or lead to a miscarriage of justice. Thus, prejudicial evidence underscores the legal system's commitment to impartiality, ensuring that verdicts are based on facts rather than undue emotional or psychological influence. Impeaching a witness. Understanding the legal framework. In legal proceedings, impeachment refers to challenging a witness's credibility or reliability to undermine the weight of their testimony. This process is not about physical removal, but rather about discrediting the witness's statement's truthfulness, accuracy, or consistency, influencing how the judge or jury perceives the evidence. Witness impeachment may occur during cross-examination when an opposing attorney identifies inconsistencies or contradictions in the witness's statements. For example, if a witness's testimony during the trial differs significantly from statements made in earlier depositions, this inconsistency may serve as a basis for impeachment. Similarly, evidence of bias, prejudice, or personal interest in the case's outcome can lead to impeachment, suggesting the witness may not be entirely objective. The importance of authentication of real evidence. The authentication of objective evidence is a cornerstone of the legal and investigative processes, playing a crucial role in ensuring the integrity and reliability of the evidence presented in a case. Objective evidence, which includes physical items such as documents, weapons, or other objects, must be verified as genuine before being accepted as part of the judicial record. This process is vital because it establishes the link between the evidence and the event in question, providing clarity and truthfulness to the proceedings. Without proper authentication, there is a risk that fabricated or tampered proof could be presented, undermining the trial's or investigation's fairness. Authenticating objective evidence also upholds the principles of justice by protecting individuals from wrongful convictions or acquittals. In a legal context, presenting fraudulent evidence could result in significant miscarriages of justice, potentially ruining lives and eroding public trust in the legal system. The authentication process involves various methods, such as chain of custody, expert testimony, or forensic analysis, which confirm the evidence's origins and condition, and thus its reliability in proving or disproving a case. Furthermore, adequately authenticated evidence can provide closure for victims and their families, ensuring the truth is revealed and justice is served. Ultimately, authenticating objective evidence safeguards the truth and ensures that legal outcomes are based on accurate and credible information.